What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Path Across Podcast. This is your host, Zach Shoemaker. Joining me today is a very special guest. He is the Calvary Phoenix pastor, and that's none other than Jason Visa. Jason, appreciate taking time to come on today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, Zach.
Absolutely. So I want to kick it off like I always do with each and every single show, and that's talking about your testimony so people can get to know your journey, your story, and all those aspects. But first and foremost, I want to ask this question I always like to kick it off with, and that is, if we go back in time, would that be middle school, high school, Jason, whatever it might be, could you ever imagine being a minister? Is this always your calling, or what got you into this?
Yeah, good question, bud. The answer is no. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know there's people that the senior pastor I serve under was like 9 years old, and he said that he would like play church and it's like set up his army men and like a church service. I was like, wow, okay, buddy. But yeah, I was actually homeschooled,
Mhm.
and I was raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. Um, like it'd be like saying Phoenix is like Maricopa, you know what I
Right.
mean? Um, but yeah. So I was raised in a great home. That's the thing about my testimony is that no matter like my parents did great. I
Mhm.
just did really bad, and so like no fault of my parents. Like they really gave it a good shot and are amazing and we're really close. My fault was my own fault.
Mhm.
Um, and so, and we can get into that, but skipping ahead then, um, my mom told me, she kind of prophesied over me that I would be a pastor in my teenage years. And I was like, lame. My dad owns a computer business. And so I assumed I would go into the business, even though I'm not computer like techie nerdy, but I was like, I can talk to people, you know? But that I got saved and then decided to go to Bible college just to like a gap year
Mhm.
and figure out what I wanted to do. So I went to Calvary Chapel Bible College in Marietta, California, and I got my undergrad and my associates in theology. And they're still bad, still trash, doing a lot of stupid stuff.
Mhm.
That again, we can circle back on if you want, but that's the juicy stuff.
Mhm.
But at this point, I was beginning to like look. I look back. I was beginning to people were like, "Hey, there's something about you. There's a call," and it was like lame. And so then I still didn't know what I was gonna do, so I moved to Arizona and went to Arizona Christian. Went to ACU, and I literally just taught a class there just now. Um, and so this morning, so then I got my undergrad, I got my bachelor's in biblical studies, and that was like, okay, I love the Bible, I love people, I love talking about the Bible, but I hated public speaking. I was deathly afraid of speaking. I have dyslexia, and I really had to overcome a lot of learning disability issues with reading and reading out loud and reading comprehension. But I love the Bible.
Mhm.
And I had to do an internship for my undergrad, and I interned at Calvary, and I was a meat cutter at Whole Foods. Worked, I was married. We just had got married, and the senior pastor, Pastor Mark, hired me on part time. And then we had our firstborn, our son, Seth, and then they hired me on staff full time as a pastoral intern. And this is where it gets like weird because now on staff, I have a salary, and it was like, oh, I'm like 21, 22, and I'm in full time ministry, but I still didn't feel the call, man.
Mhm.
I still, it was kind of like everybody else saw it, but at this point, maybe Jonah, a little bit of running
Mhm.
slash denial, and I really wanted to be a cop. And so for a year, I tested with law enforcement, and it's a long time ago. It was during a hiring freeze. And so there was like two positions for some police department, and like 10,000 people would go out for it. But so for a whole year, that's when I got into fitness. I had like a buzzed head and shaved my beard off. And I was eligible in Tempe. So I was right. I was pre-academy with Tempe Police Department.
Okay.
And during this time, I'm wrestling, man, wrestling with church and life and calling. Now we have two kids. We didn't even really want to be in Phoenix. And finally, long story short, the Lord, it was kind of this moment of like, I want you to give up the desire to be a cop,
Mhm.
and I want you to choose ministry. And, but then also in that, we were really still wrestling with Phoenix. And so I resigned from Calvary, and I went took a job washing dishes at a Bible college in California, where I graduated from,
Hmm.
and we lived there for about 9 months in a little dorm with a family of four, and I literally washed dishes 40, 50 hours a week, and that would be like belly of the whale, right?
Hmm.
So Jonah, Nineveh, will be Phoenix, and then belly of the whale will be back at the college I graduated from, now washing dishes, being a loser, and feeling like what have I done with my life? And the whole time the Lord was breaking a heart for Phoenix, and I loved Calvary, and the Lord called us back. And the senior pastor said, "Hey, we've been waiting. Are you done, Jonah? You dummy?" And it was like the prodigal, like, I can't come home. Like
Hmm.
they ordained me before I left. I preached a sermon. They like sent me off. We sold all of our belongings to move into a little dorm. So we were like literally homeless. We didn't have a couch, didn't have a table, we didn't have dishes. We were living in a little dorm, cooking on hot plate. And so it was like we can't go back. And Mark, senior pastor's Mark. Mark's like, "Come on back, bud. We've been waiting." And so we moved back here 11 years ago, this February. And that was the moment, was like, okay, I'm gonna be a pastor for real, on purpose.
Hmm.
You're allowed to want it, First Timothy chapter 2, right? Those that desire the office of a bishop desires a
Right.
good and honorable thing, right? I think that's First Peter or First Timothy 2. And then I also decided to make a long-term commitment to Calvary. And I told Mark, this is it. I'm not, no more looking. Like, no
Hmm.
more cooler churches, better churches, somewhere else. Like, for all intents and purposes, like, I'm here.
Right.
I'm committing long term to this bride. And dude, that's where we've been ever since, man. And I've been preaching there for the last 12 years, 13 years. I mean, altogether about 13 years. So yeah, that's a long answer, but that's ministry, man. It's like, it's not a straight shot. Like, it's super
Mhm.
windy. So it's been a journey, dude. But now I wouldn't trade it. Yeah.
I love it. Now, there's a few things I want to touch up on. I know, obviously, you
Yeah.
talk about going through a lot of different trials, tribulations, obviously, kind of going away from the faith, whatever it might have been during those times and all. And I want to go back to that because you admitted something right there. You said, you know what? I had the right system in place. My parents were great, different people around me, but yet I still fell short. And I think that's a huge
Yeah.
thing for any believer. It's getting to that standpoint where you say, you know what? I'm at fault. I messed up. You have to take personal accountability. Like, at the end of the day, that's the only way you're ever really going to get saved. Say, I need
Yeah.
help. I need Jesus, you know? And so I want to ask about that aspect, kind of go into some of those aspects where you're struggling.
Yeah.
And then what about it helped you kind of realize, you know what, I'm at fault. I need to change my life from here, God. Obviously, I can't do it alone, but I know I'm
Yeah.
at fault and I need you.
Yeah. That's a good question, bud. So I was my parents are great. We weren't sheltered. We weren't the weird homeschool kids. I was an athlete. We did sports. We did, um, but we also did Awana Bible School, and we were raised in a Calvary Chapel. My parents were on the worship team. My dad is a deacon of the church.
Mhm.
We were uh, a great family, and but I really, just at a young age, man, had a pull towards sin and a pull towards darkness. And I was exposed to pornography at a really young age, about 6 or 7.
Mhm.
An older neighbor in the neighborhood had porn
Mhm.
back when there was magazines,
Right.
and we were like, "Whoa, what?" And so that was really an early childhood exposure to porn, which plays a huge role in the maturity and development of your sexual ethic. And so by like 12, I was sexually active and being a punk kid and hiding in church. And so
Mhm.
I was, talked to my mom. She swears I was saved. Yeah, I say I got saved when I was 15 and a half, and I have a testimony of that. But like you said, whether or not the seeds were planted and I was saved and I walked away, or the seeds were planted and I never really made the decision for myself. But for sure, the Lord found me in high school.
Mhm.
But during that time, I was sexually active. I was addicted to pornography, and then I got into self harm. And so I started cutting myself when I was about 12, and that played a significant part of my decline, my emotional in my mental health. I was suicidal ideations, depression, and I cut myself for a long time. I I don't know how people familiar are with that, but it's turns into an addiction, right? Cutting sets off the same neural pathways and adrenaline and endorphins that heroin does. And so it becomes a physical addiction, not just an emotional coping, not coping, but like a bad habit,
Right.
but it's actually physically addicting. And so I was deeply involved in self harm. And then with self harm comes darkness. It's so demonic.
Yeah.
It's right. Because I mean, what's the enemy's ultimate plan for your life, Zach? To kill
Hmm.
you,
Yeah.
right? If it can kill you, it's like a spiritual abortion. Take what God wanted to do and get you to snuff yourself out.
Yeah.
And so with self harm, you have to channel darkness. You open yourself up to dark music, music that encourages that. You have to get yourself hyped up on rage and shame and self-loathing, and you're basically like circling the drain of suicide,
Right.
right? Of punishment. I deserve this. I hate myself. I'm a bad guy. If I punish myself, I'll be better.
Hmm.
And no one can know. So no one knew, bro, for
Wow.
years. I would live long sleeve shirts and I would cut all the way up my arms and cut myself and hide it. No one knew. No, and back then, no one knew. No one knew to check. It
Right.
was like now, like if I was meeting you, I would look at your arms.
Mm.
Everywhere I go, I look at people's arms. And but back then, that's like 25 years ago. Now there's support groups and therapy is not a stigma. Mental
Right.
health is like pretty like, oh, Christians can have that. Back then, dude, like you'd be like, did a cat scratch you? Like, did you get attacked by a wild boar? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
did you fall skateboarding? They'd be like,
Hmm.
what's with the checker like crisscrosses and like you look like a cutting board? They'd be like, oh, were you in the woods playing? They would
Hmm.
never be like, oh, you're sitting at your bed with a razor blade.
Right.
And so my poor parents, no one knew, dude. And so I eventually got caught,
Mm.
and that was a huge moment for my life where I talk to people about this all the time, right? Like you have to be caught before you can be cured. And I got caught. Um, Fell asleep. A girl I was talking to on AIM, and she fell asleep at the computer. We were talking about cutting, and her parents read our thread and then reached out and told my parents. And my parents, they went ballistic. They didn't know what to do. They just were heartbroken that my mom said it's like someone died in our family. And it was just the death of a Jason they thought I was.
Right.
And what do we do with this kid? Therapy wasn't a thing. I mean, it was, but not in our family.
Right.
And, it was still a little weird then. And so my parents just prayed it, quoted scripture, loved me through it. And the shock of getting caught kind of snapped me out of it. But it stayed with me for about 5 or 6 years after that, years after that. So then I get saved when I was 15, or whatever you want to call. Kind of had my big like
Sure.
Acts 9, Saul of Tarsus, road to Damascus, like hit with the gospel, like boom. And really had a radical transformation. It was like I got it.
Mm.
And I did really well for about 2 years. And then I got my heart broken.
Mm.
And it was a girl's fault. No, I'm just kidding. But it was me being an idiot. And and the enemy, the messaging that I took on was basically, look, here they are hurting you again. You should go back to doing what you do best, which is hooking up with girls, no strings attached, emotionally remove yourself, and you should start cutting again and just enjoy the pain. And so I relapsed back into self harm and got really bad into it and ended up having to get surgery and reconstruction surgery and crazy stuff, dude.
Mm.
So then, dude, I went to Bible college, bro. I went to Bible college in that mess. and got wrecked in Bible college and was really I hurt people, hurt a lot of people. So it wasn't until my wife came along, God's grace to me, that He used her to unpack a lot of my secrets, and pornography was in the background the whole time. Of
Mm.
course, you don't talk about that because that's not very masculine
Right.
and it's embarrassing and shameful.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm sexually active, pornography was always, you know, right there.
Mm.
So, and it was always very connected to self harm
Yeah.
because you relapse and then you feel like dirt. So then you
Mm-hmm.
punish. And then I would look at porn. So I would want to punish, you know,
Right.
it's that people often say like addictions come in pairs. And so, it's like I only smoke when I drink, or I look at porn whenever I smoke. Like there's often two neural pathways.
Mm.
So dude, yeah, it was basically this moment of man, the Lord just I was like Peter, man. I loved him, loved the Lord. But there was a lot of times where he was like, Jason, do you really love me? Like
Right.
grace, a lot of grace on my life, man. Yeah.
All right, so I want to dive into the porn aspect there because obviously that's part of
Yeah.
my testimony as well, and I just want to kind of dive into that
Mm,
because I think when you overcome that, you look back and you realize how detrimental it is to people. But it's so
yeah.
difficult because for so many people, it's unfortunately and horribly become a part of society in a certain sense. It's ingrained, whether it's nudity or not in certain aspects. The
Yeah.
lust, the aspects of that, are just so ingrained into television, into movies, into what you see on the web. It's so accessible to so many people out there,
Yeah.
and so for
That
so many
picture too.
people out there I just
Hmm.
want to ask about this, the impact that this has on people, because so many people don't
Oh
understand the
boy.
grave impact it has on people until you get saved, until you look back and realize that screwed up my entire life. Like you said, not only is it just bad in of
Yeah.
itself, it transitions into so many other outlets that could possibly come into your life, and you end up building up this massive wall, this massive hill of just sin and destruction in your life.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of just ask you about it. So obviously, talk about as part of your testimony how detrimental is it to people and how important is it that kids just do not get involved in this, or at least for parents you need to put as many guardrails as possible
Yeah.
to limit or at least completely eliminate to any extent kids from being exposed to this stuff.
Yeah. I think I coach a lot of young guys and women. No, I don't coach women, but in counseling situations that's come up or in premarital counseling,
Sure.
it's not just a guy thing, right? I think 40 to 45% are women,
Mhm.
and it might be different motive, but the outcome's still the same, which is brain tattoos of terrible things, right?
Mhm.
But I think years ago, I tell guys all the time, like, even with smoking, it's like, dude, you either smoke cigarettes or cigars or weed. Now you can smoke candy, cotton candy, vapes, and
Mhm.
smell like a fairy tale. I used to like spray like Febreze on myself. Like we'd like smoke with gloves on so we didn't have like a cigarette smell.
Mhm.
Now it's like you can smell like bubble gum. And like, you know what I mean? Like you can smell like cotton candy and be in a car and your car doesn't stink. And so I talk to guys about like, dude, you guys quitting nicotine is a lot harder than it was for us. Like
Mhm.
smoking was just gross for people, but
Right.
vaping is just like, well, whatever. Like it
Mhm.
smells good. Like it's not a cigarette, like your hands don't stink, like it smells like candy, right?
Mhm.
So I think same with pornography. Like early on, dude, like we had to like print out pictures and like we would like trade them like an underground trading system, and or you'd have to use the computer at your parents' house, and
Mhm.
that was often in the living room, and you're like, or like I remember having a laptop and like sneaking a laptop around, being like,
Right.
and then my dad being an IT genius, we had all the parameters,
Mhm.
but sin will always find a way,
Yep.
right? It's like water in a leaking boat. It might be floating, but water will find a way through if there's a way, right? So
Mhm.
even guys with software like Triple X Church, Covenant Eyes, you find a way to loophole,
Mhm.
right? Like I call those like I call like speed bumps. They're not solutions. They're speed bumps,
Right.
right? Like it's like, oh, hey, Zach, get software and you'll never look again. It's like, no, you will if you want to.
Mhm.
You will find a way. You'll buy a new phone if you have to, right? Like if you're jonesing and tripping, you'll download some weird Safari app or find some app with an in-app browser or follow a link from Instagram to Twitter and it's not bypasses this, right? Like guys, it's an addiction, right? And
Hmm.
so the brain will find a way. So early on, the day this bad boy came out here, it was over,
Right.
right? I remember getting my first iPhone and that realization of like, oh, no more sneaking laptops,
Hmm.
no more desktops. I got it right on my phone, unlimited access. And it was like, oh, dude, this is gonna be tough. And it introduces this new level of accessibility and availability and anonymity or anonymity, whatever,
Hmm.
to be able to find it in the bathroom to being in class, looking right at it. So dude, it's so detrimental, bro, because we were all raised on porn. Our sexual orientation was crafted by pornography.
Yeah.
An adult industry that doesn't give a rip about you. That it's all fake. They're all actors. They hate their lives, and it's terrible. A good buddy of mine. I don't know if you know Josh Broomer.
Mm-mm.
The name Josh Broomer. He was a famous porn star that now is a pastor. And
Wow.
I'll send you his stuff on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna have him come out and preach here, so you should come in next year. But
Awesome.
so all he does is goes around and talks to people, about testimony. Like he was like top of the food chain porn star and got saved and God redeemed him. But he talks about like a lot of the people that he worked with, they're all dead. They've
Hmm.
all committed suicide or were addicts or alcoholics. And just the corruption of the system and the industry is but but we all both know that no matter the end of the day, you're not thinking about those things when you're wanting to look.
Yeah.
You are just selfish and you're letting your flesh lead. And dude, it's so detrimental, bro. Couples counseling and marriage. I've had couples that try to introduce it together. Like, oh, let's just do it together. And now I look and we'll do it's like oh, I'll stop when I get married. And it's like, no, you won't. Y-
Mm-hmm.
No, you won't. I'm a celibate, so I just do this. It's better. No, no, it's not. I mean, maybe, yeah, don't go around hooking up either. But you know what I mean? Like, sure. But how about you don't do either and you walk in integrity?
Hmm.
And I know it's harder said than done. I know I'm not trying to be dismissive. Like, I know it's brutally difficult.
Right.
But yeah, man, I think your guys' generation. How old are you?
23.
Yeah, right. So you grew up on the iPhone,
Hmm.
right? You never stood a chance, right? And we're seeing it with our kids, they don't have Safari on their phones. They don't even have YouTube.
Mm.
Um, we don't even let them have chat on comms on, like Call of Duty or like Fortnite and stuff like
Gotcha.
that,
Yeah.
only like select friends. But like, dude, it's like I know my son's he's about to be 13. It's like I know what's coming, dude. And but here's what's cool. We talk about it.
Mm.
And I think that's something we could talk about is there's like the old school, like just not my kid. They never would.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, they are. They already did. And so we've made a point. Like I just took Seth on like a guy's night
Hmm.
and we talked about, hey man, so have you looked at porn? Have you seen anything? Has anyone shown you anything? And he's like, yeah.
Mm.
He said the other day, he said somebody pulled up something on his computer with AI. That's the whole topic. And he said, I at first didn't know what I was looking at. And then I realized, he said, then I looked away. And he said, I was scared to tell you. And then I just grace bombed him, dude.
Mm.
I love ya. I'm so proud of you for telling me that. It must have been so tough. I remember being scared of my dad.
Right.
And right, because we know shame reinforces addiction,
Hmm.
right? Grace sets us free. And so I need him to know I'm a safe person to talk to. Because if not, it'll keep happening but get worse, but he'll never tell me again unless I catch him. Right. So we wanted to establish really early, you tell mommy and daddy, you know, Emmy, our daughter, talk to mommy.
Hmm.
Seth, talk to daddy. Talk to dad. I'm never gonna bite your head off. You
Mm.
know, truth will always be celebrated. Right. But secrets, that's a different story. And
Right.
so yeah, man, I think this accessibility is so tough, and we see it. These sexual expectations that come crashing down in marriage, where
Mhm.
people think it's gonna be what they saw, it's gonna it's gonna be what they were raised on. And the reality is, sacred marriage sex life is not pornographic like that. It can be awesome, it can be fun, bro. It's good stuff, but it's not porn.
Mm.
And no one can ever compete with porn. So it leads to dissatisfaction in sex. It leads to erectile dysfunction. It leads to resentment in marriage. It leads to the taboo and the kink of these are the things that I had to do to be aroused that no girl or guy is okay with. Right. So again,
Mhm.
it's conditioned our brain that this is normal when in fact, no, this is produced. Marriage sex life is awesome and holy and wonderful and sensual and great. Awesome. But a lot of guys are going in thinking it's going to be one way. And their wife is like, what? Why would I do that? That's dirty. That's gross. That's degrading.
Mhm.
And then they're frustrated and angry and they go right back to porn.
Mhm.
So we do see hurts marriages, bro. Yeah.
All right, so one of the aspects I want to dive into in this regard is personally, I think you look at, and what's interesting is, so many things that we figure out scientifically now comes back to the Bible and we realize it. Obviously, the Bible talks about lust, talks about these different aspects, and then you
Yeah.
go to the physical standpoint, you go to the scientific standpoint, and we know that people that are addicted to porn, those different aspects, it does have a massive impact on masculinity. Your testosterone is going to go down. You're going to deplete a lot of
Mhm.
aspects. It's not going, especially for the man standpoint, that's one more some more familiar with, it's going to deplete you in terms of who God called you to be from a physical standpoint as well as a
Yeah.
mental standpoint. And I think we look at society today, there is a massive issue with masculinity. There's all this gender changes going
Mhm.
on right now. There's men that don't know if they are going to be men. And then we even go to the biblical concept of men are called to lead women. They're meant to protect women. Getting
Yeah.
involved in any of this stuff, we're not supposed to see anyone else's nakedness, nudity, whatever it might be outside of our wives. And so it is depleting so many aspects. And so when you dive into that, talking about biblical masculinity, how much has this impacted and really been detrimental to society in that regard? Just really men embracing being who God called men to be.
Yeah. Yeah. We see there's a biblical masculinity crisis in the church.
Yeah.
There's either hyper masculinity in the church where it's obnoxious and silly
Hmm.
and, you know, let's go hunting and smash beer bottles over our head and shoot boar from a helicopter. It's like, okay, like, cool. Uh, Whatever. But I feel like that's just a reaction to be more macho, not necessarily lead biblically,
Mm.
right? The true masculine doesn't need to flex. They just do, right? Like
Mm.
Christ is the ultimate man, but he was also humble and approachable. And he wasn't belligerent and a jerk and a bully, right? So you have one side of the spectrum where you have, like, let's say from a pastoral standpoint, I think there is a major masculinity crisis
Yeah.
in pulpit, like pastors,
Hmm.
where these guys are just be careful. But this new platform that I have on Instagram, I have to be more careful now. But there's a level of like, oh, yeah, come on, bud. Go lift some weights. Or, dude, yeah, it's just weird. Anyway, but then again, then you get the hyper extremes. I don't respect those guys because
Mm.
it's too much. It's obnoxious, and they're gonna have a church full of burly redneck psychos,
Mm.
and they're gonna miss a whole different demographic, and they're just gonna zero in right on
Right.
the right. So, but I do think Christ is the ultimate man, right?
Hmm.
Not Adam. He was a failure. Christ is the ultimate man. And Jesus was submissive to his parents,
Mm.
leader in the community, well read and studied as a rabbi. He confronted sin, but he was also approachable and kind, ate with sinners, wasn't afraid to be guilty by association, and then let people crucify him, right?
Mm.
He loved the world to death, which is what meant Ephesians, right? Christ's love. the church, right? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for, right?
Right.
So women, we think about this all the time, like you're called to submit, and I'm like, guy, you were called to die.
Mm.
So she's submitting to someone that's dying to you. That's how it works. She is submitting. You are called. Ours is harder.
Mm.
We're called to love them to death.
Mm.
Literally, give your life up for her as Christ did the church, humbly, sacrificially, not self-facing, selfishness. It's not just, yeah, you serve me. No, it's how can I serve you? And
Mm.
that's actually true masculinity,
Mhm.
is that I don't have to, but I will anyway, because
Mm.
I love my wife. Not because I'm a beta, do I do the dishes or fold some laundry. It's because I can and I don't have to, but I do it anyway because
Mhm.
that's what Jesus did for me. And so, and I want her to feel loved and supported and cherished. And those are ways that might help with that. And right. So it's not just sit on the couch and you serve me and rub my feet, cook me dinner because
Mhm.
you submit, submit, submit. And I'm like, guy, you haven't died once. What
Mm.
have you done? What have you sacrificed? Like it's not a one-way thing.
Yep.
So biblical masculinity is not just wearing camouflage and shooting guns or having big muscles.
Mhm.
That could be a part of it. But I know very masculine men that are not that typical stereotype. That these
Yeah.
guys are like, whoa, I would not want to be on your bad side, but I know you are godly and humble, but you are strong. You are strong in your faith. You're not afraid of anybody, and you hold it down, and you love your family fiercely. And that's more compelling to me than I've got to fit this stereotype so I look like a man.
Mm.
To me, if anything, it's like it's almost like, are you compensating? Right?
Mhm.
Like, hmm, you're trying really hard. It should be a transformation, and finding your voice as a man, it's not easy because what's happened is the world has made masculinity illegal, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The woke liberal feminist agenda has castrated men, and pornography has castrated men. We're
Mhm.
running on low test, like you said. Low testosterone as a society is just a norm now. All guys are tired, sleepy, lame, porn addicted, don't have, they have issues, mental health an all-time high. So
Mhm.
we're not even sailing full sail, bro.
Right.
And then you're not allowed to speak up. You're not allowed to lead without coming off toxic masculine, right? And yeah, you gotta do that. Like, you remember you heard the whole like, would you rather be in the woods with a bear or a man? Did
Right.
you hear that one? The
Mhm.
TikTok trend and literally the feminine. Oh, I'd rather be with a bear because the man won't rape me. And it's like, wait, what? I think a bear would maul you to death. Um, but it just shows where we're at.
Yeah.
Is all men are now predators, and masculine men are what's wrong with this world, and that's just now. So that's attacking us.
Mhm.
So I think it has made us fearful to be strong, or even again from a pastoral perspective, when I do get big and I say, "Hey, man up," people are like, "Oh,
Mhm.
how dare you?" And it's like, no, Paul said some pretty intense things.
Yeah.
Jesus called people out. We're allowed to call people higher. Now, of course, we have to have love, not just being belligerent, right? But I think we're not used to strong leadership anymore. And so trying my best to find that tension, that middle ground, and I fail miserably at it.
Mm.
So trying,
Right.
bud. And it's been cool to see online, just people I've been connecting with where they're like, hey, I've never seen a pastor who looks like you. And maybe like the tats or the gym, it opens up some new bridges of
Right.
connection that they're like, that's not typical. But that's not me, right? I'm
Mhm.
Jason and I love Jesus and I love people. And
Amen.
the tattoos are a bonus. That's for me. I've been getting them before it was cool,
Mhm.
So I was like, I got it long before it was trendy, And now it's like, listen, it closes as many doors as it opens.
Right.
I'm
Right.
saying it on here right now. If you clip it, like if you're going to go into ministry, it does limit you.
Yeah.
It does. Like I would never get face, neck, or hand tattoos because these already get me in trouble. There
Mm,
are as many comments about, wow, how cool this guy. Wow, yeah. And then I get, this guy's awful. This is, I would never. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. Different countries. I can't minister in different countries because of tattoos.
mm.
So it does have a limit and it does box you into a bit, right?
Gotcha.
And so it's like I wasn't doing this to enhance my ministry. It actually has hindered my ministry. I've gotten a lot of flack for it. For years, I had to cover my tattoos just to kind of like Timothy being circumcised, right?
Mhm.
Like not to be a stumbling block. And so even when I go speak at places, I ask people if they would like me to cover my tattoos, and I don't throw a temper tantrum anymore. I used to. Early, I was like, "Come on, you judging me? You don't love me." And now it's like, no. If I'm preaching and there's a 90-year-old grandmom in there, she thinks I was like a biker gang convict. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so she would not listen to me. She would tune me out, right? And
Mhm.
so I have no problem covering up my tattoos if the Lord says, "Hey, in this environment, yeah, maybe this professional setting might be confusing." So so I learned early, like they're for me, but it definitely has hindered at times. And then it's opened some awesome doors, some cool
Awesome.
conversations. So, but yeah. What church are you at?
Sun Valley.
Oh, with Chad?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
No,
He's a masculine guy.
yep, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Are you guys friends? Tell him I said hey.
All right, so
But
I don't know. I know the other pastor, that Robert Watts, a little bit better because we don't go to the main campus. We go to the another multi, or it's a multi-state campus. So we don't. I've
yeah,
only seen him one time before,
he's a good guy.
for
He's very
sure.
sweet, and he's a man's man. But
That's for
again, it
sure.
does. It's not. It's just the right amount. He's a good guy. So
Right.
love Sun Valley. Yeah, it's awesome, bud.
For
Cool,
sure.
dude.
One point you did bring up there was this overabundance of masculinity. And I
Mm,
think back to right now in terms of social media era, we have guys like Andrew Tate to throw out there. And I think we look
yeah.
at someone like that. And, there might be some points that are conservative views that I do tend to agree with on him. But what
Yeah.
I do feel like when we look at somebody like him and we get caught up too much is that in a society that's been reduced to such a massive extent with masculinity, when you have someone that is a masculine-ish figure, you tend to draw to that because we want to see more of it. However, when you talk about the aspect you talked about, actually, I love what you said there, is that you have to die to the wife, essentially. Obviously, he's
Mm,
of a completely different mindset. He's of the mindset that you can have as many women as possible, do a lot of
right.
horrible things to women, so on and so forth. And I think that in this time, we've been in such a confusion state over the past decade or maybe even 5 years, whatever you want to call it, of first of all, masculinity being completely exiled. And now some voices starting to
Yeah.
kind of rise up a little bit, but yet they're not
Yeah.
the right voices. So I want to
Right.
kind of go and elaborate on that aspect. When you talk about being a biblical man, biblical masculinity is different than what the new standard of American masculinity is. When you talk
Yeah.
about that aspect, how do we use discernment and say, you know what? We need to get to a standpoint where we say, okay, this is biblical masculinity. There are masculinity traits, but we still have to do it in a biblical way.
Right. Well, think about this. We never had to talk about this 20 years ago.
Right.
If I wrote a book on biblical masculinity 25 years ago, no one would have bought it.
Yep. Yep.
Now, back then, it was what? Leadership.
Mm.
Andy Stanley, all these random guys, leadership 101, Craig Rochelle, all these big, it was all about leadership. And then it was purity culture, right?
Hmm.
Joshua Harris, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, Love Dare. It was all about dating and romance and biblical dating and courtship, and everyone obsessed with courtship. And we overcomplicated things. Then now it's masculinity is like the new trendy thing to talk about.
Mm.
Why? Because we forgot how to do it.
Yeah.
Think about World War II, man. Smoked cigarettes, went and crushed it for their country. 19, 20-year-old men going off to Vietnam. They came home, they worked a regular job, they drove a crappy car, they had one wife, they tried to stay married to. They didn't think, how should I be a man? They chopped their own wood. Some of them got
Yep.
tattoos. right? They all died from lung cancer, and like there really wasn't conversations about this.
Sure.
Now there's been this, like you said, there's been, and I think a big part of it was pornography.
Mhm.
And there's this overreaction that happens. And you have the sexual revolution, you have the hippie movement, you have the pull, right? So think of a spectrum, and I know that word's been hijacked, but you think of, let's say, gradient. You've got 1950s masculine man, the Great Depression, the 30s, 40s, just men being men. They wore suits and
Mhm.
had manners, even if they were awful. They had manners. There
Yeah.
was a politeness. There was like an etiquette. There was a bro code, but it was a gentleman's code.
Mm.
Then you had the 1950s, the baby boomers, 60s became hippie-ish, 70s, 80s, sexual revolution, where they began to swing away from the patriarchy, and they began to swing away from, and the New Age movement, secular humanism, the
Mhm.
beginning of feminist movement was like kind of rooted in that time, where now, oh, that's toxic, that's bad. Now let's be this way. So then our
Mhm.
parents, and really, so my grandfather was a World War II vet, two purple stars, stormed the beaches of Normandy, Battle
Mm.
of the Bulge. I mean, he had a Nazi helmet on display in his house. Like he was kick butt, dude. I mean, like dude, he had a Nazi dagger, he had a Luger. Like, I mean, like this guy did things,
Right.
And then he was worked for the school system, and he played tennis, and he died of lung cancer when I was 10 years old. Right? It's
Mm.
like he was a man. He was
Right.
a man. Then you have my father's generation, who were 60s, and my father owns a company, shoots guns, but no tattoos, never
Mhm.
smoke, never drinks. Uh, is a bit gentler, tender, but still masculine and manly.
Mm.
Then you have we're millennial, or I'm millennial, you're Gen X,
Yes,
Gen
yes.
Z, yeah. So
Mhm.
then millennials were like, let's get into our emotions, and I was misunderstood, and we got into like emo music and like Liquid 2, and we got a bit emotional,
Mm.
and then the internet came on, social media pressures. So we've watched the decline of masculinity. We're now we have to write books,
Mm.
right? Like, do you know the name Joby Martin? He's
Yes, I
like this
love it. Yep.
suit, a big beard,
Yep,
jacked,
yep.
super jacked. He just wrote a book, Standing Firm, right? Act Like Men, right? First Corinthians 16. It's like, well, we have to talk about this because now guys don't know what to do.
Yep.
They were fatherless. There's a fatherless problem. So guys have never chopped wood. They don't know how to change their oil. They don't know how to chop. They don't know how to chop wood or drive a manual. They don't know how to shoot a gun. They don't know how to reload. They don't, because they didn't have a father, right? So
Mm.
we have a major epidemic with fatherlessness in our country, or absentee, or just a lack of good role models, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have guys my age and to your age where maybe they never had a great role model, and they then listen to like an Andrew Tate or something, and they think it's okay to
Mm.
cuss their wife out and beat their wife
Yeah.
because, oh, you said to submit, and you made me mad, so I'm gonna leave you, divorce you, smack you. And it's like, wait, no, what? Like,
Yeah.
dude, that's never been acceptable biblically, and we would have handled it a lot differently back then,
Mhm.
right? So guys don't know, man. I think, and then pornography and all these things began to kind of castrate men's masculinity to where now a masculine man is like, oh, he must be toxic. He must be a narcissist. He must be prideful.
Mhm.
It's like, no, I listen to like this guy Joby. He seems very tender. He
Mhm.
seems very kind,
Yeah.
but I also wouldn't want him to get in my face, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd also go to
Right.
war with him. Like I would
Mhm.
follow him into a fire, and I have not met him yet. I want to meet him, but like I'm like, dude, you're awesome, man. But was it the beard, the tats, or the muscles? No, he's got a warrior heart.
Mm.
He's got a fierce heart, and those other things are just things he's into.
Right.
Those are hobbies, like driving a cool car. It doesn't make you. You just like cars, right? So
Mhm.
he would say that if he was, now again, maybe visually we judge physically, and maybe we wouldn't take him as seriously if he weighed 90 pounds,
Sure.
But dude, I know some deadly guys that weigh less than my wife. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's not what makes a man at all, right? The Lord looks at the heart. So yeah, man, I would say the topic needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
The problem is it's left a vacuum for guys to either go hyper masculine
Yeah.
or for the right balance to be rejected because we're not used to it, right? So we have to toe the line of that tension of being compassionate, watching our tone, watching our facial expressions, watching our body, being careful, and making
Mm.
sure I'm not just speaking to one kind of guy, or else my ministry will just reflect one person, me,
Yeah.
right? And I want it to
Hmm.
reflect Christ, which is multi-ethnical. It's
Mm.
diverse. It's multi-generational, right? Multicultural, right? And so the church should reflect as much diversity as possible. And so because that's what Jesus did, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, sorry, long answer.
No, I love that. And I think we go back to it. I think it was two questions ago, but you kind of touched up on the aspect of, there's a lot of pastors that are not masculine either right now. And we're seeing a
Mm,
big problem right now. And I think at the end of the day, what we do know is that even going back to the Old Testament, when you have leaders, whether that be the priests, obviously back then, whatever it might be, and the leaders of the
yeah,
nation that don't follow God, there's a lot of ripple effects of that. You have to
yeah,
be totally submitted to God. And what we're seeing today with a lot of pastors, not all, but a lot, is that so many people won't preach the truth. And I respect you about this because you'll go up there and you hold your ground on, masculinity. You hold your ground when it comes to, same-sex marriage, those type of things,
yeah,
abortion, all these aspects. But what we've seen too much of is too many pastors have become too caring about what the people are going to
yeah,
say about them. And they'll look at it and say, you know what, because these biblical concepts, they're in the Bible, we all know that, but
yeah,
because politics have now involved the Bible in them, they're going to avoid it. And I think that's ridiculous ultimately because we need to live and
yeah,
submit to the word of God. And so I think when we talk about ministry, and that's really what a big topic I want to get into with you now, is that we see a lot of false teachers. And it's either false
yeah,
teachers or at least we can call them weak teachers. A lot of
yeah,
people that don't want to stand up to the truth because maybe some of them in the back of the mind do stand for these things, but they don't want to go forth and actually stand firm in the word of God. And we know
yeah,
persecution will come with it. It's in the Bible very, very clear. We know that there's going to be judgment, so you shouldn't shy away from it. But I want to ask you about this because you look out at the church at large, the whole world, the whole country, whatever you want to look at, we see too much of this. How have we gotten to this point from a pastor
mm.
standpoint in today's world?
Yeah. I would probably blame on social media. I think a lot of cancel culture has gotten influence in the pulpit
Yeah.
where you are afraid to rock the boat. And let's be honest, pastors are afraid to lose tithe.
Yeah.
And so they will skip topics because they will lose money,
Mm.
which is a sinful living in fear, fleecing the sheep, whatever charge you want to bring against them. So the moment we water down our message for how it will be received, we've missed it. Right?
Hmm.
The receiving is the Holy Spirit. We've been called to be ambassadors to 2 Corinthians 5:17 through 21, right? That it says beseeching the world to be reconciled to God, urging, begging, says we've been ambassadors of Christ, making a plea, please be reconciled to God, right? So our job is to lead the charge and talk about the hard topics. And the things we're all talking about: pornography, self-harm, abortion, um, hookup culture, um, all these things, right?
Right.
Woke agenda, feminism, marriage submission. Those are all things the church should be talking about more than the world.
Hmm.
But because
Yep.
we've stopped, I was just talking to the church about this recently. We were talking about with Charlie. Because we stopped being politically involved, the church backed out,
Hmm.
and so the world moved in.
Yeah.
Those are all biblical topics. We know, or at least we believe, we have the better way, which is Jesus and his kingdom,
Amen.
right? And so I want my leaders to be Christian. I want my nation to be Christian. It doesn't mean I'm going to force people to be saved. That would be tyranny, and that would be like Sharia law. That's not
Right.
what we're going for. But I do believe the Bible offers a better way.
Mm-hmm.
right? And a better ethic and a worldview and framework. But because we don't talk about abortion, we don't talk about, fatherlessness, we don't talk about being godly men and walk in humility but masculinity and towing the line. We don't talk about all the things, or a lot of us don't. We've given up this ground, and the world has gobbled it up. Gub, 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 gub. And so
Mm.
now it seems so random when a pastor talks about something like that. Like, these are not controversial biblical topics, they're just biblical topics.
Amen.
The pride, greed, gluttony, lust, anger.
Mm-hmm.
It should be in the same lane. We talk about protecting children, babies, manning up, doing this, paying your bills, pay your taxes, be a good worker, be present in the home, be godly, be generous, be involved in the community, speak up for the government, advocate for the voiceless. But all of a sudden, when I talk about abortion from the pulpit, they're like, oh my gosh, this pastor's so bold. It's like, dude, no, bold's getting your head cut off overseas.
Amen.
But
Yep.
like, dude, I'm not that bold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not. Like, I have no threat of harm, dude. Like, I'm not out there getting cussed out and shot like Charlie. Like, I'm in a church with surrounded by security, and everybody loves me there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not on the street corner in Vegas getting attacked, right? So we're not, or talking about homosexuality. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you addressed this. Pastors have always addressed this,
Yep.
but now we have this cancel culture, and we have giant buildings with giant overhead, and you need everyone to stay to tithe.
Mm.
And so pastors now play this game where you have to make sure you aren't rocking the boat too much because you might lose overhead.
Right.
And in which case, I believe you lose God's blessing and it becomes a
Amen.
business, not a ministry, right? Of course, there's bills and tithe, whatever, that's a whole different topic. That's not the issue. The issue is the moment you start preaching from fear
Mm-hmm.
or not preaching from fear.
Right.
Or just preaching like they talk about, there will come a time where they will not endure sound teaching, but will
Yep.
heap up for themselves teachers having itching ears, telling them things after their passions, right? That's where we're at. You
Mm-hmm.
attend a church that doesn't say anything because you're living with your girlfriend. So you attend some limp-wristed, weak church where the pastor's, oh,
Yep.
wow, you're doing great, bud. I feel so much better today. And you've never been called out.
Mm.
Right? And so that's what we're seeing is people are attracted to a lot of these big mega churches where you listen. And I just did a series, Zach, like a 10-week series on how to spot a false teacher.
Mm.
And I said, if we look at the big guys, and I won't name them, they are quiet about all the quote unquote, like, well, I won't say they are. They were mega big, 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 like hundreds of millions of followers didn't say a peep about Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And their church, people start posting and like, oh wait, why didn't my pastor mention that? Like, this, whether or not you believe in everything he believed, whatever. Like, this is a national historical moment for the world. Like this, like these big guys, not all of them, they don't talk about the big stuff.
Yeah.
They don't talk about same-sex attraction. They don't talk about homosexuality. They don't talk about living together. They don't talk about abortion. They don't talk about the woke agenda. They don't. Again, they're going to talk about being successful in the workplace and 16 ways to be a good husband.
Mm.
They're not going to address. So that's where the pastors that are more controversial almost get famous, pedestalized as like, oh, look at these new prophets. It's like, no, you just aren't used to preaching.
Yeah.
Like, what's
Yeah.
one of the most famous sermons, right? Was it what's the old famous sermon? The fear of the Lord one. It's John Wesley, fall in the hands of a living God. But anyway, doesn't matter. But like old time Bible preaching was hell, fire, and brimstone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying we should all just be around whacking people for sure, you know.
Right.
But now we're like, how dare you address sin in my life? No one's used to it. And
Hmm.
so we have to make sure we're doing it with grace and dignity and kindness and humility, but also like
Truth.
truth, love
Hmm.
and truth. We worship in spirit and in truth, right? Speaking the truth and love, Ephesians chapter 4:15 or whatever. So, I just was literally today was talking about biblical confrontation in at Arizona Christian,
Mm.
right? I think it's Proverbs 27:5-6, right? Open rebuke is better than secret love, right?
Amen.
Faithful are the wounds of a friend, deceitful are the kisses of an enemy, right? So the world pampers you and kisses you. The friend says, "Hey, Zach, noticing this, I love you.
Mm.
Help me understand this, and they come to you from a place of love, right? Because to really love someone, you speak up. And basically, if you God's saying if you love them but you don't say anything, you don't really love them,
Amen.
right? And so preacher's job, our job as godly Christian man, trying to be, is that we declare the truth with love.
Hmm. And you know what that leads me to is prosperity gospel. That's becoming something that we're seeing way
Yeah,
too much in society today. And I'll
yeah,
kind
big
of
time.
also finishing up on what you just talked about there. You know, what's intriguing to me is that for so many pastors, and I'd have to imagine at some point they were saved. Now, maybe they've walked away from the faith, whatever it is.
Yeah,
But we often admit that the day that we have that awakening to Jesus, there is going to be conviction. Now, for myself, like we talked
yeah,
about earlier, porn, that was the tip of the iceberg. But you start to realize as you read the word of God, it's a convicting Bible. You're going to get your feelings hurt sometimes. You're going to be twisted and turned a little bit and say, what the heck? I have to give this up. I have to give this up.
yeah,
Yeah, you do. And there's not, if you're ever reading the Bible and you've never experienced a time where you feel convicted and you
yeah,
feel almost embarrassed or called out or whatever it is,
yeah.
then I don't know what Bible you're reading or your Jesus right now and you've lived it all out
Right.
perfectly. And so part of it is I think you look at these pastors, is abortion going to possibly convict some people and upset them? Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
point of the Bible. Will same-sex marriage do the same thing? Just same way as pride is. Obviously, none of these are necessarily cardinal sins, but the same way each and every single sin is,
yeah,
it's going to convict people. That's the point of the Bible because we're
100%.
not perfect. And I think we go into that now talking about prosperity gospel. It's a false preaching. Obviously, yes, can God bless people if they follow him in financial ways, success, fame? Can those things come? Absolutely. That's not a guarantee, though. Because you
Yeah,
tithe, because you do that, you're not just going to have it's not a genie we're talking to right now. This is the loving
right.
God of the universe. And yet we're seeing this. And I think we're seeing too much involved with prosperity gospel within politics today. Even as much as
Yeah,
I love the conservative movement, we see a lot of these people in high positions of power right now preaching prosperity gospel. We see big name
yep,
pastors doing it. And I want
yep,
to ask it because I don't think too many people are familiar with it. Too many people don't know the word and they hear God's going to bless you because they read stories of God blessing people in the Bible. Accurate. However, like you said, when you go to faith expecting that you will become financially set, that you will
yep,
become these aspects, is going to lead to letdown and is ultimately going to lose followers down the road.
yeah.
How critical and how impactful has this prosperity gospel era been to hurting the church now in today's era?
Yeah, it's been a cancer. It's been a
Yes.
cancer. I did 2 sermons on this. I went through it. After I did false teachings, I was like, "Guys, I'm gonna do heresies." And so I did a whole series on heresies.
All right.
And I did a deep dive into the Word of Faith movement and prosperity gospel, and it
Mm-hmm.
has its root in what's called, New Thought, right? New Thought was a healing cult in the 1800s, and some Christians downloaded it, and the idea is basically anything wrong with our life is a matter of perspective and thought, new thought. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can cure my body by changing my perspective. So, word of faith movement, if I heal it, if I believe it, I heal it. If I name it, I can claim it, right?
Mm.
And so then out of that, the gospel, the prosperity gospel was born out of the healing, like faith healing movement, where, yeah, it's a complete butchering of the gospel.
Amen.
It was never about being blessed, it was about being saved.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus did not come to make us kings. He made to come uh, sons and daughters,
Amen.
right? Now, is there an amazing inheritance? Yes, in heaven. Can you be successful? Sure. But I know a lot of godly Christians that are super poor.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of terrible Christians that are filthy rich.
Mm.
And I know a lot of great Christians that are filthy rich. And they give as much of it away as they can, right? So it produces shame and condemnation, right? When you prayed and believed that God would do something and he doesn't because not according to his will. We see this in the Bethel movement. I have no problem calling out the Bethel movement.
Mm.
Bill Johnson, he's a word of faith guy. It's rooted in mysticism. And he believes faith is a force, like Star Wars.
Mhm.
and that we have the ability to reshape our reality with our words. And so you can, work in the fourth dimension and heal this and deliver that and rain money down in angel dust. And Bethel is crazy. So
Mm.
Bill Johnson's, I believe, a full heretic. And so we don't play their music in the church because he said we use our worship as a medium to influence the church culture around the world. He's on
Mm.
record saying this. And so we're like, we're out.
Mm.
Even if they've got some really great worship songs, knowing the agenda is like, oh, but really the idea is if you believe it enough, God must give it to you. And the Word of Faith movement and Bethel believes that it's always God's will to heal. And we just don't see that biblically,
Mm.
right? We see that Timothy wasn't healed. We see that Paul wasn't healed. We
Yeah.
see people talking about, being sick, right? There it is not some catch-all just for whatever you want. And so healing's according to the will of God. And the goal is not to make you healthy, wealthy, and wise. The goal is to sanctify you and make you holy,
Mhm.
right? So if the healing falls in line with that according to his will, like we just watched, well, firsthand, a girl in our church, woman, literally died, had a heart attack in the middle of the night, dead for 30 minutes with no oxygen to the brain. They didn't think she would ever recover. Brain would be completely dead.
Mm.
And dude, the church, she's one of our worship leaders, married, 3 children, 3 daughters, amazing. Her name's Brooke. The doctors, after they did the heart work, they're like, we're going to try to basically revive her, and her brain's probably going to be 30 minutes of no oxygen is game over.
Mhm.
And bro, she was fully untouched. She's
Wow.
not even just survived. Like she went home a week later with no PT,
Wow.
full cognitive restoration, like full blown.
That's
Our church
incredible.
saw the miracle. It was unbelievable. Well, I believe it. I've seen miracles, and then I've prayed for people, and God takes them,
Mm.
or says, so like He said to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you,
Right.
because when you're weak, then my strength is made perfect in you." And Paul says, "Therefore, I will glory in my weakness, because when I'm weak, He is strong." Right. So it's we see prosperity gospel praise on third world countries. Right. It's a cancer. Like we work a lot with Uganda, and Uganda in Africa, the prosperity gospel is is like a wildfire because they prey on biblically illiterate. They prey
Mm.
on poverty because they're promising wealth, right? So pastor comes in the Bentley, he's got his red carpet entrance, and if you do these things and do this much, you can be like me. And so they prey on biblically illiterate people, and we see it in our church today. Our church, our world, the Christian world today is biblically illiterate.
Amen.
That's
Yes.
where heresy breeds,
Mhm.
right? Second Peter chapter 2. The teachers will come in introducing dangerous heresies,
Yes.
but they will be accepted. And they'll be like, oh, this sounds so good. I never heard it like that before. So you don't even know what a heresy looks like. Right. So that's why I took our church through it. It's like, I want to teach you how to spot them. This is Gnosticism. Here's New Age thought. Here's, Eastern this, mysticism. So I took them through like 10 different heresies and
Okay.
like major cults, basically. So it's like, you don't even know.
Mm.
Like we're not the Bereans where they went in Acts 17, went and searched the scriptures to see if it was so for themselves. So there is now a level, let's just say in the US, there is biblical literacy.
Amen.
And so at our church, and this is not like a plug, but like we encourage bring your Bible to church. I mean, it sounds like, wow, what a new
Yeah.
concept.
No,
Wow,
it's
you do
good.
that? But like we have ushers walk when we start Pastor Mark, and we hand out Bibles. Raise your hand if you don't have a Bible. Bible. Take a Bible. And I'll buy you a Bible myself. I don't care. Grab you one on Amazon. You got to have God's word. So we teach verse by verse, book by book,
Mhm.
because it's so easy to skip the hard stuff if you don't,
Amen.
right? And so you just again cherry pick, right? So we teach verse by verse, but we want to teach them the Bible, right? And so even just people that don't bring the Bibles to church, and they're not bringing 'em, but they're used to the pastor not even using the Bible.
Mm,
I was, I was at a chapel service at GCU, the biggest Christian university in the world,
right.
I think next to Liberty. And have you ever been to their chapel services?
No, I've not.
Oh my goodness, bud. They're like 7 to 10,000
Wow.
students every Monday to or whatever it is. So they'll bring out these prominent pastors, these big wigs, and I just rolled up with some of my students, and the pastor had a Bible, stayed closed
Mm,
on the pulpit while he talked about a whole bunch of nothing.
mm,
And I just thought, dude, what a wasted opportunity. Like,
yeah.
dude, you didn't even open the book. You didn't even read one verse and then butcher it. You didn't even open it. You didn't quote it. Like, dude, what the heck, man? And I just broke my heart. And nothing against GCU. It was against the pastors. Like, who are you bringing this guy for? Was
Mm,
it 10,000 young people in the room? Holy Toledo. What an amazing opportunity. Right. But that's now uncommon. Wow, you guys teach the Bible? It's like, what were you expecting? Well, in my church, we just get, free donuts and we're told we're doing great. And they have one Bible verse on a slideshow. And the pastor talks about himself for 35 minutes. It's like, oh, what church is that? I was kidding. So anyway, not time to talk smack, but that's our lane is like, let's be in the Bible.
I
So
love it.
yeah, man.
The biblical illiteracy in America right now. And I think also another aspect is we see social media, and I think we see so many people that are being revived right now, which is obviously
Yeah.
incredible. Yet we're seeing so many people go straight to social media and start making posts. And the
Right.
problem is that it's hard because I don't want to critique it, but at the same time, you do see a lot of stuff that is not biblically accurate. Theology is not there, and it's not necessarily their fault, just that they've only really gotten to the faith in the past 6, 7, 8 months,
Right.
whatever it is. And I think you look at yourself, it takes a lot of time to grow. We're always going, none of
Hmm.
us will ever be perfect. We're all going to
Yep.
learn. But I want to go to the accountability aspect because for these social media people, within church, at least good churches, you're going to have elders, you're going to have
Hmm.
people above you that will critique your messages, that's going to hold you accountable. When you have the social media platform, that's not happening. And unfortunately, some churches, we don't have that
Yeah.
accountability either.
Yeah.
How important is this? I guess it even goes into the friendship aspect and becoming a biblical masculine man, is holding other people accountable, whether that's your friends or whatever, and saying, hey, you know what? I love you, but you're messing up here. This is not accurate, whatever it is. How important and how have we lost such a strong pull of accountability within the
Yeah.
Christian church at large today?
Yeah. Great question. So uh, I think we love our privacy.
Yeah.
At the same time, we love our public persona.
Hmm.
And I was going to be on the podcast. We've lost the art of friendship because of social media. Not to sound like a old, grumpy, crusty guy, but really, how many people do you know that really wrestle with having friendship? And I pastor young adults. I teach our midweek main service, and I teach young adults. And I hear it all the time with young people. I don't have any friends. Where do I get friends? Where do I find a girlfriend? Where do I find a husband? We've lost the art of social skill.
Mm,
Back in the day, again, hard conversations were just part of it. You just had them.
mm.
We didn't have to have books on it. We had the book on it, which said, don't do it. Talk about it. Now, I just taught a class for an hour and a half on how to do it, right?
Mhm.
Because we're scared. I think there's a level of, again, we have become very offendable.
Yep.
We have to be PC, and we are scared to tip on toes, and we're scared to hurt feelings, but we shall see that biblically. Again, we do like Galatians 6:1, right? If you see your brother in sin, you who are spiritual, mature, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. But take watch lest you too be tempted. Galatians 6:1-2. Right. So there is a level where I think we just lost it. One, I think we've lost good friends. And then two, the people we keep in our life, you've put parameters up so that you can still live with sin and you don't let them into that space. Right. So
Mhm.
from pornography, living together, hooking up culture, drinking, vaping, drugs, whatever it might be, you have set up an infrastructure and like this ecosystem that You don't let people in enough to even get a chance to say, "Hey,
Mm.
that's that's not right. We don't do that. How dare you?" And then you just cut them out of your life. Boom. Right. And so most people that have tried to do that have been cut out of that person's life
Mhm.
because they didn't really want to grow. Right. And so Proverbs calls that a scoffer. If you rebuke a scoffer, he will hate you. If you rebuke a fool, you will cause self harm. Right. But if you rebuke a wise man, he will love you and you'll
Amen.
gain favor. So there is a level, I think a lot of it is social media. And I think we've lost the art of friendship where there's reciprocity. There's an openness. And then with pastor with ministry, yeah. Um, Pastors don't have a lot of accountability. They don't have scrutiny. They don't, and I think that's a problem with the non-denominational movement, which I'm a part of.
Mhm.
That some of the older church systems, they had a bit more hierarchy, which has
That's
its own
true.
problems. It's not perfect. But your regular average, small town non-denom Moses model pastor, he's a one-man band. So who's going to confront him?
Yeah.
Would you dare confront Chad Moore? No, you'd be terrified, right? And I think you'd be humble enough to be like, "Thanks, Zach, that was cute." No, get out. No, just kidding. But like, I would hope that they have systems in place to say, "Hey, Chad, came off a little aggressive in that sermon," or "Hey, you came off, you seem a little prideful in that meeting," or "Hey, Jason, you came off a little like a jerk in that moment." And
Right.
but who checks the pastor? Well, you're supposed to have an elder board,
Mhm.
but even the elder board is only eldering from what the senior pastor is bringing to them.
Yeah.
They are
Good point.
often lay volunteers that have real jobs, and not like pastors aren't real jobs, but meaning they have other jobs.
Makes sense,
They're
yeah.
not full time. So often elder boards have no idea what's going on. They're just checks and balances for taxes purposes and payroll. And don't, the pastor is not taking drugs or like embezzling. But what
Mm.
about interpersonal conflict skills? What about domineering, pride, ego, narcissism, nepotism, day-to-day operations, fear culture, uh, whatever it might, building your own kingdom? No other person has access to that except staff.
Mm.
But the staff would never speak because
Yeah.
you got NDAs, you signed your rights away, your salary, everyone's pretty much hand to mouth, right? So you're not going to risk getting excommunicado, so to speak. So a lot of pastors get away, not all of them, but with a lack of accountability. And that's why we're seeing all these big dogs fall,
Mhm.
is they've built a kingdom around their strengths while at the same time protecting their weaknesses from being public
Mm.
and not having that discipleship. You talk to a lot of these guys or hear these interviews after their fall, and my heart breaks because I get the thought. It's like nobody was pastoring me. Like
Yeah.
who do I can like Zach? Who do I confess my sins to?
Right.
My senior pastor? I'd be what? What? I don't know. Be scary, right?
Yeah.
Like don't fire me, or him to who does he confess his sins to?
Mm.
Don't fire me. And so pastors live in this world of secrets where there's no one I can trust with what I struggle with. And so what we in our home we call them safe friends. Who are our safe friends? Who's my guys that I can be just Jason with, not Pastor Jason?
Mm.
Who are godly men that don't pamper me, but are safe. And I can say, I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling with depression, wrestling. Bit my wife's head off last night. I really blew it with the kids. I not doing this right. Man, I'm struggling. I'm lonely. Pastors don't dare tell anyone that stuff.
Mm.
And so they just have this, they have to maintain this persona and this facade to be impactful. And those things well up and obviously often lead to crashes and more failures. And so it's very sad A lot
Yeah.
of them see it's like, dude, who was shepherding my wife? Like, we
Mm,
didn't have a pastor. We had to perform, and we had to
mm,
play the part that everybody wants you to be. And so a lot of pastors are wrestling with depression. Like, look at the pastors recently that have committed suicide in the last couple of years. Some of them I knew. These were like heavy hitter, awesome guys. But then it turns out they were having panic attacks before they went on stage, or they
mm,
were, uh, in really bad marriages, or but there's no one they could talk to, right? And so again, we want to make sure that we have good friends. We want to make sure that we have godly people, and that everyone has a pastor,
mm.
everyone has a coach, or at the very least, the pastor should have a therapist, somebody
Yeah.
that they can download without feeling like you're not gonna say anything, right? You're not gonna you still gonna love me. Don't,
Mhm.
you know. So
So I was like wrapping up each and every single interview about this, and this is talking about legacy. One day Jesus is going to call us all home. And I'm just curious, when
mm,
that day does come, what is that you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished for the kingdom of
mm.
God on earth?
What do I want to be remembered for? My mustache. Just kidding. I mean, I want to be faithful, man. I don't need to be famous. It's overrated. Not interested. Didn't want it. It's already annoying. And I just want to be faithful. I want to be a faithful pastor until I die. That's my
Mm,
goal. He
I love
preached
it.
and he died. Hopefully in the pulpit. That'd be sweet. So truly, I want to be faithful. I'm not gonna be perfect. I don't, I'm a lot like Peter and David, a knucklehead,
Right.
but I love the Lord, man. And then he has grace on my life to use a guy like me is the Lord. It's grace.
Mm,
So I never wanna be more than just humble, faithful. I love Calvary, the church I'm at. Love that bride. And so to be faithful, man. And then of course a good husband, you
I
know.
love it.
So those two
What
things.
I
Yeah,
love
dude.
it. Well, Jason, I appreciate you taking time to come on today. It's been a blessing
Man,
and
thanks
honor
for
having you on
having
the
me.
show, and I can't wait to see what God continues to do through you, man. Of
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, dude.
course, you're always welcome on. God bless.
All right, God bless you, dude.